Today, we are going to help you find your simplest effective two-handed backhand. So just like with the forehand, there is a very simple, controllable, small version of your swing that you can find that'll help you contact the ball cleanly with confidence, and then we can tack on the hips and the trunk and the feet and positive balance and all the stuff that gives us more acceleration and spin later, built off of this very simple foundation. Now, the first thing with this is you are almost certainly going to feel more comfortable with a tiny little gravity loop. Now, this doesn't mean you have to drop the hands way down, but look what happens if Alexa takes her hands, holds them up tight, and never gets a little bit of gravity to power that stroke. So you can still control this ball, but the whole thing's going to feel a lot stiffer, a lot less continuous, and the little gravity loop is really not going to cost you much control at all. So now let's go back to using it, and you'll see the swing is a heck of a lot more fluid, and it's probably going to be a heck of a lot more comfortable. Now, on the two-hander, both your left hand and your right hand play critical roles, and they play critical roles even in the simplest effective stroke. The right hand is more for driving the racket through the court, creating that drive vector, whereas the left hand helps you control the racket head itself, and that's the one that helps the racket head turn over. And when we say turn over, we don't mean turn over like this. We mean turn over like this in a way that keeps the string and go roughly constant. It helps the racket turn over to create spin. Now, if you want to hit flatter, you probably don't use it as much. And if you want to hit spinner, or if you want to hit like a sharp angle or something, you're probably going to use the left hand more. What we're going to talk about next is specifically what these hands do, what you can do to feel them on your simplest effective stroke, and how very often different two-handed players are either right hand or left hand dominant. We're going to switch here. I'm very much a left-handed two-handed player, and so I'm going to talk about that first. So when it comes to the left hand on the two-hander, one of the reasons that this stroke is so great, and so much of the tour and recreational players and everyone up and down the tennis landscape is switching to it, is that this hand gives you so much extra leverage. And not so much for power, but more for control. So when I take this left hand behind the handle, I don't even really have to hold the handle. And I just feel like wherever the ball is, I can put the racket head through it just by pushing with my palm. Now, obviously, you can hold the hand, but the point is, on the simplest effective two-hander, this left hand is what's going to give you command over this. I'm going to exaggerate even not moving my feet, and still just with the left hand, I can put the ball wherever I want. So the second I am able to move, now I can do other things with the left hand. Now, when I say that the left hand makes the racket roll over, what I mean is that this motion is a driving vector. This motion is a rolling vector, and your left hand can very easily create this whenever you want. So if I want to hit a shot with more spin, as long as I make sure I'm still driving through the ball, I can just push a little harder with the left hand through here, and the racket is going to roll over so effortlessly. Now, on the simplest effective stroke, little gravity loop, push the left hand through the ball. Little gravity loop, push the left hand through the ball. Next, we're going to switch back. We're going to talk about the right hand and the right shoulder, which is more responsible for the driving aspect, driving the racket through the court, as opposed to the left hand, which produces a lot of the control, the roll, and the improvisation. Now, the right hand on the two-hander is responsible for pulling the hands through the court. One thing that can happen, especially if you're left hand dominant, but also if you just kind of haven't built that intuition for how the right hand works, is let's do some really left hand dominant wristy ones. Without the right hand providing the driving vector, the backhand can get really, really wristy. Now, the left hand is actually still doing what it's supposed to be doing here. There's actually nothing wrong with the way you're swinging, except that we haven't added in that driving vector from the right hand. So you can do it normal now. So that right hand and that right shoulder creating that pulling vector. Again, quick refresher. Every shot in tennis has a rolling action and a driving action. Now, on most shots, like the forehand, we had to create both of those with the same arm. One of the beautiful things about the two-hander is you almost have two separate levers, and you can tweak your swing however you want. If you want more spin, if you want more roll, you can use the left hand more. And if you want more drive and you want more penetration, you can pull harder with the right hand and with the right shoulder. As far as your simplest effective backhand, it's that little gravity loop. You can put your focus on either hand. You can figure out if you tend to be more of a right-handed or left-handed dominant two-hander and just work with it. And then as you want to add velocity, you can just swing slightly harder, pull slightly harder, lean in slightly more, and see what happens to your stroke. So that is the foundation of the two-handed backhand. Now let's talk about adding velocity, adding a little shape, and making it into more of a rally ball.
Before we get into that, I do want to quickly mention, if you want help with any of this, check the link in the description for how we work with people, either online or in person, because of course, sometimes that personalized advice really helps.
So the first thing I want you to notice here is, the simplest effective backhand is mostly about your hands, your upper body, having a nice stable base, a little loop, and using your left and right hands correctly. But if you watch Alexa's lower body and her hips now, all of a sudden when we're trying to add pace and we're trying to add shape and velocity, the lower body plays a much larger role. This shot, it's very simple. It's very simple. It's a little bit restricted, very high control. One of the benefits of that is that when we recruit all this, we're connecting it to such a stable unit that we can really aggressively use this without losing track of the swing. So what you're going to see now is what it looks like when she doesn't do that, where she stands up super tall. She's not able to get this nice double bend and engage the hips, the legs, and the trunk. And, she can still maybe make the ball, but all of a sudden you can see just how much dynamism she's lost. Now, she still kind of has that simplest effective swing in there, but the ability to drive the ball from the baseline now requires integrating the lower body with that simplest effective swing. So when it comes to targeting, one of the beautiful things about the two-handed backhand is the left hand can change the target almost at will and at the very last second. When you want to hit cross court, all you have to do is drive that racket head around slightly farther with the left hand. And when you want to hit down the line, you can focus a little more on the right hand and more of like what you'd see from like an Agassi or a Novak going up the line where that racket doesn't roll over as much. One of the reasons the two-hander is so good at passing shots is that you can do all that basically at the last second. So hit a couple line for me. And then you'll notice Alexa, she's always loved the up the line, and she's always been a relatively right-hand dominant two-hander. But I'll give you one of these, hit it like a passing shot. You can just pull it. Let's do a cross court. It's so trivial. I mean, okay, I know she makes it look easy. It's not that easy. But mechanically, you have so much leverage to just pull that ball cross court you want, or to just hold that left hand, not throw it around, and just throw the ball up the line. So again, I know she's making it look easier than it really is, but the beauty on the two-hander is that you have that simple swing, you can connect it to your hips and trunk, and then you can just use that left hand and that right hand to manipulate the targeting from a very similar starting point. Now, I know you see a lot of open stance backhand when you watch TV, but the truth is they usually use that shot when they are receiving a ball with a lot of pace. When I'm hand tossing to Alexa here with no pace, notice how she feels much more comfortable leaning in, stepping in, getting sideways, eyes on the ball, this chin over shoulder position, getting sideways. That's how you're going to feel most comfortable generating your own pace on the two-hander. So a lot of what she's doing to connect her trunk and her legs to the simplest effective swing relies on that sideways position, that coil, and then that lets the hands shoot out here. So now go open stance. And open stance is not going to destroy your simplest effective backhand, but it's going to make it a lot more difficult to actually generate velocity. You really would never want to use an open stance backhand on a zero pace ball like this. So if you're pulled out wide and you're deflecting somebody else's pace, this can be a really useful shot. But you'll notice what she's doing now is basically just her simplest effective backhand. She might have balance and a little more reach from the open stance, but she doesn't have that connection through the trunk and the legs, through the ball, like she does with more of a closed stance where she stays sideways. So you can go back to hitting for real. And so this is something I see where it's just, if you're hitting your simplest effective backhand and it feels good, but you're having trouble connecting it into that really strong, really crisp rally ball, learn to feel that chin over shoulder position, see the ball, get here, and you're going to feel a lot more comfortable as you try to torque those hands through the same way you're doing on your simplest effective backhand, but of course, now connected to your power production.
Okay, unfortunately the mic cut out here, so I'm going to have to voice over this last part. We are talking about the contact point that you need, specifically the depth of the contact point that you need in order to get your power production to connect into your simplest effective backhand. And what I'm showing here is, if you catch the ball too close to you, you're going to get stuck. Your hips, your trunk, and then that right shoulder, which creates the driving vector, it's not going to be able to release through the ball. And then if you're a little too far, you'll finish releasing, and then you won't have any power left because you finished all of your power, and you're still not at the ball. So what I'm showing here, this is Alexa's contact point. Notice it's pretty far in front of her. So the shoulders, the hands, everything has to really have space. And if it doesn't, it looks like this. See how she's jammed here now? She can't release. So you have to turn sideways and leave enough space to unwind everything and let it penetrate through the ball. So we're going to show a couple of demos here. She's going to show what it looks like when she's a little bit jammed, not leaving enough space. This is a good one here. Boom. So that's what it's supposed to look like. She's got enough space that that right shoulder can release all the energy stored and released from the trunk and the legs. And, get on court and experiment with this. You're going to feel, if you feel like you can't get enough power, try hitting the ball a little farther away from you. You might find, when the ball's there, I can release everything into it. I can get that feeling of driving with the right shoulder. This, a lot of you feels like this. And see how she kind of has to pull the racket across her body earlier than she wants to? A lot of you guys who just let the ball get a little bit too on top of you, and that's what it looks like. And if you just move your contact point a little, you'll find you can sync your power to your swing much better. Again, that's what it's supposed to look like. It's a subtle difference. It's not that far. It's not like it's 2 feet. It's maybe 6 inches, but it makes everything work a whole lot smoother. Now, if you go too far, you can see her simplest effective backhand is still here. She's still flicking the ball with her left hand. She's still using the left hand to control the racket head, but the power is all finished. The ball is so far in front of her that the whole power has already released, the shoulder's already pulled, and you haven't hit the ball yet, so now all you can do is flick it with your hands. So there's a balance here. Go to the extremes. Wait really long for the ball, feel yourself jammed. Go to the ball super early and feel yourself flicking it, and then find that spot in the middle where everything feels like it naturally releases through the right shoulder, and that right shoulder naturally pulls through the ball, and you're like right in the middle of that zone where you can really fire.